There's really no music, right? Can everyone just not make a sound for a second? Shh. Is there still something? There's not? Okay. Chad, you're not funny. All right. We are here for Concept Innovation, a Plant-Forward Kitchen, a conversation with honorees from the CIA-QSR Plant-Forward Fast Casual Watch List. I will immediately leave the stage to Sam Oches, who will introduce some of the honorees from the list and tell you a lot more and guide you through a panel. Our panelists and Sam.
Is this thing on? Hey! Whoa. Don't shout. Got it. Figuring out my Britney Spears mic. Hey everybody, good afternoon. Thank you for coming. As Ann mentioned, what we wanted to do with this panel was talk to some of the people behind some of the brands that we've put on the QSR CIA Fast Casual Watch list, and talk about, get into a little bit more of some of the nuts and bolts about the fast casual movement, the plant-forward movement within fast casual, what that looks like from a concept standpoint, a menu standpoint, and business standpoint. And I'm really excited for the four folks who have joined me today. Each of them are behind the scenes of concepts that did make our list and are really driving innovation at the fast casual level that I have been really fascinated to watch over the years, and I know have been very influential in the cities and regions in which they are. You guys know the two guys here on the end, I think, by now, Greg and Eric. And we'll talk to you guys in a second, but I really wanted to start by introducing our other two panelists. Bettina Stern, co-founder of Chaia Tacos in Washington, D.C., immediately to my left. And next to her is Nicole Marquis, the co-founder of Hip City Veg, which is based in Philadelphia and also has locations in Washington, D.C. What I wanted to do, instead of reading their bios, what I wanted to do was first start with Bettina and Nicole to talk a little bit about how you guys got into the fast casual game and started your concepts. And then we'll also go and talk to Eric and Greg about how they specifically went in the direction of plant-forward fast casual. So, Bettina, let's start with you. Tell me about how Chaia Tacos came to be and why specifically plant-forward tacos was something that you and your co-founder wanted to do.
Well, the timing was right. We started in a 10 by 10 foot tent right in front of the White House at the White House Farmers Market. And, you know, plant-based foods, eating more vegetables, getting healthy, making policy changes was sort of on the rise. And my business partner and I had begun to cook more and more plant-forward foods for our family and our friends, and we were ginning up to try to figure out what this business would look like. So we set up a 10 by 10 foot tent, and we hand griddled enough food to feed 50 people on that very first market. We had a menu of 3 different taco options: a creamy kale and potato, a braised mushroom, and probably a smoky collard greens. I don't really remember what the third one was, but it's still on our menu, whatever it is. And we showed up at that first market in May 2013, and we sold out in less than an hour and a half. So the next week we came back with enough food to feed 100 people, twice as much, and we brought a friend to cashier because it was a little hard for the two of us. And we sold out again in an hour and a half. So we got smart, and we hired some staff. And within 6 weeks, we'd been written up in the Washington Post. And by the end of that farm market season, we'd been named one of the top 9 tastemakers in D.C. So I think that we had a concept that was at the right place, at the right time, choosing to only use vegetables as our main ingredients. We are a vegan-friendly business. We're inherently gluten-free. We actually happen to be nut-free because my business partner's youngest child has an allergy to nuts, so we chose to do that as well. So we hit a lot of buzzwords, but really what we were trying to do was create food that was delicious, familiar, and that we could get people to eat more vegetables. So
And now you have 2 locations.
Now we have 2 locations with a third in the wings that we are working on, and investors who are really interested in our scaling process. And we are looking forward to where that next market will be, whether it's a second-tier city or my hometown of New York City or Los Angeles or Oakland, California, or Berkeley, or wherever, we really kind of feel that Chaia works just as well could work just as well in a Cleveland, Ohio, as it would in the taco capital of the US, Austin, Texas. Because what we're doing is a familiar food done very differently, and yet, I say after all these years, I still love what we make, so.
Yeah, great. Nicole, tell us about Hip City Veg and how it came to be.
Yeah, I have, a slightly similar story when we first opened, which I think really speaks to plant-based foods and the trend and the demand for it. But, back a little bit, I was in college, left grad school, really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just started reading a lot about nutrition, which interested me, and became vegan, started researching about the powerful effects on health that plant-based foods has, and was living with my father and mother at the time, and really kind of typical story. My dad's was in his 50s, overweight, on 4 different medications, was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and he's a nurse practitioner, one of the smartest guys I know. But every time I said, just eat more fruits and veggies, he would throw up his hands and say, no, I have these diseases because it's genetic. My father has the same diseases. And it's not surprising. In the medical field, they have 4 hours of nutritional studies. And so I ran out. I got a blender, made him the same green smoothie that we are currently selling at Hip City Veg, called the BFG, blended fruits and greens. And he was hooked. He looked at that and was like, I can have all of this spinach just like this. He was like sort of like an epiphany for him. And within 2 months of adopting a plant-based diet, he lost 25 pounds. He was able to safely eliminate all of his medication and completely put his type 2 diabetes into remission. Wow. So it was like magic in front of my eyes. Everything I'd been reading and researching and interested in really worked. So in 2012, I founded Hip City Veg and opened to a line out the door. Who knew that in the cheesesteak capital of the world, people wanted vegan, plant-based food. And so, we opened the doors, sold out by 12, had to cook twice as much food, sold out by 1 the next day, and this went on and on for a couple of weeks till I got the hang of it. I had been in restaurants, working in restaurants for 15 years, everything from a busser to a host to a manager. So I had an idea of the operations when we first opened. And now we have 7 Hip City Veggies, and we're opening several across DC, Philadelphia, and hopefully New York.
Awesome. Eric, let's go down to you. Tender Greens, you co-founded this back in 2004, 2005?
2006 is when we opened.
Gotcha. So why was Plant-Forward such a big part of what you guys were doing at Tender Greens?
Yeah, it was, it wasn't a thing.
Right.
And neither fast casual, I don't think, was defined. We certainly weren't paying attention to it. And Plant-Forward really wasn't much of a thing. You had some sort of hippie granola, vegan and vegetarian places. And the foodscape at the time in Los Angeles was really good restaurants that led mostly with animal protein that were too expensive and impossible to navigate the reservation system. That's where I lived for much of my career as a chef. And then the in-and-out culture of Southern California, which was accessible, fast, scalable, but really didn't meet my lifestyle. So I found that I was cooking at home a lot for friends and family, but like most people, didn't have time to go to the market, cook, clean, and do all that. So Tender Greens was a reaction to this massive gap in the marketplace. One, affordable, relatively fast, slow food. and then slow food with a heavy emphasis on plants, not plant exclusive. We're an omnivore concept, but plants as the leading headline, and then I would say, clean and integrous animal proteins as an accessory or a garnish. And the idea was it was the kind of food that you could afford both in terms of budget, time, and lifestyle if it was aligned with wellness, so that you could go to Equinox Fitness afterwards and work out and not have, a burrito belly.
Right.
So, we've scaled now to 31 locations across the country, and now, my lifestyle has changed a lot also. So I'm really, personally, I don't call myself a vegetarian, but certainly 95% plant-based, and I really do believe it is the future. So I'm working with a lot of smaller brands to help them scale thoughtfully, one, so that they don't make some of the mistakes that we did along the way, but also to help good people scale good ideas and good behavior.
Sure, yeah. Greg, you have an illustrious career. We heard about it earlier. You have bounced around. You've been involved with lots of brands.
I can't stay employed long.
How did you find yourself into this world of the plant-forward movement, specifically when you became the Chief Energizing Officer of Veggie Grill? Why did you find that was the direction you went in?
Well, I had to go way back.
Yeah, sure.
If you guys don't mind, I'll try to keep it short. I sort of cut my teeth at TGI Fridays back in the 80s, and I found myself running a seafood restaurant chain in Southern California in the 90s, a $100 million chain, and it was all the brain damage, all of the cocktail servers and hostess and bartenders and big restaurants and entertainment, and I finally said, I'm done with this. I'm done with dinner house. There's got to be a better way. And I went to spend some time with, of all people, Kenny Rogers at Kenny Rogers Roasters down in Florida, and John Y. Brown. And we ended up selling that to a Malaysian gentleman, which was, thank God. And I did some work also for Andrew and Peggy Turing at Panda Express. And that was when they only had 2 restaurants on the street, because Panda Express back in those days was all malls. They just had the Glendale Galleria location was the one that was off the charts. It was like the Cheesecake Factory of mall food, and it lined constantly. And so I worked with Andrew and Peggy on how to get to the street, because they were used to malls, and the street's different than malls, and you don't get the guaranteed Christmas foot traffic when you're out on the street, and everything else that went with it. So did some work with them on getting the product to sit better out in a suburban street location. And also to help with marketing and labor management and things like that. And I came to really understand that I like this kind of better. It wasn't called fast casual back then. It was called like good food fast. In the industry, we were calling it all sorts of stuff. Like, you didn't have a name for what category Tender Greens was in, and they didn't either. But suffice good food fast. So what are the benefits of fast casual or good food fast? Or what were the obvious things that made it work? Well, first off, little higher quality food, or a lot higher quality food in the case of Tender Greens, than what's going on in fast food, right? I mean, number 2, fast food kind of bumps up against a $5 or $6 average check, and then you're done. You're not going to pay more than $5 for something that's been sitting around in a heat lamp. Number 3, you're in a much better seating environment. You're not in yellow Formica chairs. There's some great looking Tender Greens, and that's morphed into other concepts that I'll talk about later if you want. But for me, it was, okay, no tipping, high quality food, convenient, great average check, and filling that niche between fast food and casual theme that was wide open. And so my sister, of all people, said, hey, you got to come and see this concept, Baja Fresh. It opened up nearby. Come look at this. It's really cool. They got the fresh salsas. And I said, oh, good, fresh salsas. So I go down there. I'm like, oh, my God, how do we buy this? Literally. It took me about a year, literally, to get to Jimmy Maglos, who owned it, through an introduction through Coca-Cola. And I just said, I just want 15 minutes of coffee, Jimmy, just 15 minutes. That's it. So he says, okay, 15 minutes. He's very insular, quiet man. So that was a 3-hour meeting, and he had no board, and he had no one from the outside to really talk to that knew anything about restaurants. We kind of hit it off, and we ended up buying the company. But that was what I really loved about it was everything I just said, but also the food was fantastic. It was very fresh. I mean, literally, as I said this morning, without going into too much repeating, we made the sauces every day, and every night we threw them away. And the guacamole we threw away every night. So you better make the right amount of guacamole. Not too much, not too little, just right. Like your Hip City Veg, you know? I don't want to be sitting on a bunch of guacamole, and the franchisees will keep it overnight. They'll try to do funny stuff with it, put lemon juice in it and all this stuff, and it's different the next day. It just really is. So that was the credo. So Baja Fresh, you know, it was really easy with the franchisees because I'd be like, it's in the name, dummy, right? It's in the name. This isn't, you know, like, this is what you're paying for, is these recipes. And it was really fun to take Baja Fresh and drop it next door to El Torito's. You can find a busy El Torito restaurant or a Chevy's and just drop it in right next door, and the lunch business would just go to Baja. It was amazing. We would just we'd kill it. So anyway, that's how I got into it. And so fast forward, Zoe's was just another iteration of that, bringing, you know, clean food, kebabs, and lots of salads, and we put in hummus and other dinner entrees there to make it more kind of guy-friendly, but always with a mind towards better for you, better for you, better for you, because that's where the business was going. So we were the better for you Mediterranean restaurant in the Southeast, and trying to get out, you know, because we were a great super regional. I don't think we were a national, but a great super regional. And then while I was doing that, I built a team, and a Veggie Grill. I ran into Veggie Grill again. A friend said, you got to go see Veggie Grill down in Plaza El Segundo. So I went down there. I'm like, oh, this food is great. These, vegan, huh? It's pretty busy for vegan. Okay. And you look out on the horizon and just watch the arc of people. Watch the arc of what's going on with the consumer. And like I said earlier this morning, watch what the women are doing. I was like, I got invited to be in the initial public offering of P.F. Chang's to buy stock. So I'm like, okay, well, let's go. I'd never been there before. It was down in El Segundo. I go in there, table 6 women, 5 women, 2 women, 4 women. It was like, again, 70% women. What are they eating? What do you suppose everybody had on their table?
A salad, Asian salad.
Lettuce wraps. Lettuce cups, right? Everybody had lettuce cups, you know, and they're like, lettuce cups, these are cool. And, hey, vegetarian lettuce cups made out of mushrooms. This is really cool. And so you can see it coming.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? It's just a matter of positioning. So in the beginning, it was hell. Okay, and that's a whole other story. But now we have restaurants that do over $4 million in vegan food, which in fast casual.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So what I find really interesting about Veggie Grill and then Hip City Veg as well, and then Chaia Tacos too, I mean, what you guys are doing is you're taking very familiar platforms, very familiar foods, and you're making them plant forward. Talk to me about sort of why you made that decision. Nicole, let's start with you. Why you made the decision to make this something that was very familiar with chicken sandwich, burger, but you make it vegan in your case?
I think that's one of the keys to our success, was making plant-based food familiar to people who otherwise thought they couldn't enjoy a plant-based meal. There's something satisfying and delicious about a fried chicken sandwich. And if we can do that and make it 100% plant-based, you know, really satisfying the guest. Oh, and you happen to also be doing something great for the environment. Yeah. And well, it's fried, so I'm not going to say it's healthy, but I'm going to say that it's definitely no cholesterol, half the fat, no animal saturated fat. You are taking steps, and that's a powerful domino effect. You know, our top sellers at Hip City Veg, it's the crispy Hip City ranch sandwich, and everyone gets that with an organic green smoothie. So I think people really want to eat healthy, and but they also want to be satisfied. And when you're hungry, and I know myself, when I'm hungry, it's like all the ideas that I had in the morning of having like a sprouted salad with this and that go out the door 10 minutes before I have to eat lunch. And I think what we see is that when you take these classic American dishes, make it plant-based. You know, I think people can really relate to it, and it'll open a door for them to better eating. I know just anecdotally, like there are people who come in and say, Hip City Veg changed my life because now I'm at home and I can like research other plant-based foods. They're not scared of it anymore. It sort of debunks this myth that plant-based food is like rabbit food or hippy-dippy or whatever.
Bettina, what about you for doing tacos? Was that just a natural thing to do with the Plant-Forward?
Well, so my background, I mean, my background really wasn't in either business or, you know, any of those things. It came, this idea really came out of Real Kitchen and real home cooking and the idea of eating whole foods and taking ingredients that are grown in my area. And, you know, I said to a friend in the audience that, you know, vegetables are the most luxurious item on your plate. I mean, you saw that with Sherelle's cooking today, and Joaquin. There's a lot of loving that goes into creating a delicious vegetable, and that's what we focus on. So taking a sweet potato and dicing it is a big operation. We're having, you know, our staff is doing that, and then we've got to massage it with the extra virgin olive oil and the salt and pepper cooking that Eric has talked about, and that was you that talked about that. And then cooking that sweet potato just the right way and tossing it with just the right guajillo and ancho chili powders that we have so that it brings out the spiciness and the flavors and the deliciousness. And then making sure that the rest of the layers of our tacos equal that. So the food that we're making is actually really simple food, but its layered effect is complex because I could teach you all how to make any, you know, our creamy kale and potato taco, the most popular item on our menu. Nothing is difficult about it, but it would take you a long time to put all those components together and make your masa, roll them into bolitos, hand press them, and cook them on a hot comal. So we're doing that for you. So our menu is really chef-driven, and it comes out of a home cooking tradition. When we were designing our first space and thinking about our trade dress, because Chaia is a very beautiful, both spaces are very beautiful. One's a little cozier, one's a little loftier. But we were asked by our architect what we thought Chaia felt like. What were the three adjectives to describe what this business was? And we said feminine, bohemian, and farm-driven, and none of those elements could scream out at all because we didn't want to scare the guys away. We didn't want it to feel like Country Living magazine, and we were rooted in Mexican flavors, but we're not a Mexican joint. So that sort of describes the space that we have. And, you know, our spaces are beautiful. These spaces are done by two women who wanted a minimal but warm effect. It's a grab-and-go concept, but we want you to stay, so we never kick you out. We've had marriage proposals. We've had, first dates. It's a different kind of a fast casual, maybe fine casual, you might call it. Price point is $12 for a taco trio. It's not cheap, but it sure is affordable for the most part. So
let's talk about the whole idea that what you guys are doing is you are taking plant-forward foods and you're making them essentially mainstream. But this idea of fast casual is high-quality foods, but done in an accessible and affordable manner. Now, all of you are operating in cities where I think they get it a little bit more, certainly Southern California and New York. These are very educated cities. But as you grow, you're going to start finding that there's more customers walking by your doors that maybe they're not as educated. I'm wondering what you guys think about this idea of how you can make your concept something for everybody, or even if that's something that you're trying to do. How do you appeal to people who are not plant-forward diners?
I'll go ahead and I'll go take half of what Eric's going to say, and he'll take the other half of what I'm going to say. But first off, you really have to understand your audience. The audience is not necessarily somebody who is vegetarian or vegan for sure. Okay, what they're trying to do. They're anywhere along a continuum of carnivore, recovering carnivore, who's trying to not just be a carnivore, omnivore, flexitarian. Like when we did research at Veggie, like, well, where are you? Well, like we start from vegan to carnivore and they fill in where you are. 10% of the people said, I'm a vegetarian, but I eat chicken. I'm like, okay, sure. I guess,
whatever you want to call
why
yourself.
not? Yeah, I'm a vegetarian, but I eat chicken, right? And so when you really start teasing that apart, you start saying, okay, is it a occasion fit issue, right? It's like, and another fun fact, 40% of all the people that eat at Veggie Grill eat alone. The hell is that? It's been that way for years. It's like what, the vegans don't have friends? You know,
They're undateable.
huh? They're undateable. They can't even get a Tinder date. Everybody's swiping left on them.
No,
you know?
no marriage proposals at Veggie Grill.
No marriage proposals. Yeah, unless it's your phone, like in LA. You know. No, but anyway, it's really funny. That is not the target. The target is, and we found out the hard way. Then I'll swap to Eric because he's got a lot on this front too. In 2013, we put out our nutritionals, and our comp store sales went down like 18 points. We were at +5. We were like immediately at -12. And because people were really pissed off that we've been selling this quote-unquote healthy food, but it was highly caloric or without a lot of oil in it or whatever. And we had to really dig our way out of that. And it took a good year to dig our way out with new product introductions and new form factors and bowls and the like to really we didn't get all those people back. Just so you know, they went to 10 degrees. But we didn't get them back, but we got more back. And then the final pièce de résistance that I just want to share is that this morning when I talked about adding the burger, the Beyond Burger, and having it be 10% of sales, there's no real pride of authorship in this business to a certain extent. So when we get ready to put it in, I said, just go reverse engineer In-N-Out's double-double. Okay, and that's what we did. The flavor profile of that burger is reverse engineered In-N-Out double-double. So here I go, I got the Beyond Burger. Wow, it tastes like a double-double. How bad can it be? And then the word just spreads.
Eric, what do you think about all that?
Well, I do love a double-double. I have to,
What's a double-double?
for people from Southern California, In-N-Out
I know.
is the beloved burger chain. And I have 2 burgers a year, and one of them is usually an In-N-Out burger. I think it's meeting people where they're at, and certainly with Veggie Grill in the beginning. I mean, I knew the 2 founders, and they started around the same time, and I think it was 60-70% of the people in there were often families that I saw, and they were not vegans and vegetarians. And I think it's the same thing at Hip City Veg. It's the same demographic. People are just coming into food that they relate to. Oftentimes, they don't even realize it's vegetarian or vegan. And then if it's good, if it meets their cravings, and they come back, and you've got them. And then you can migrate them towards a green juice or a salad or whatever. We took the same approach with tender greens. We just led with what we considered California classics, and it was really centered on the ingredients, on dishes that we borrowed from fine dining, truthfully, and just did it with as good or better ingredients, same technique, and half the price. And that was sort of the model, the kind of food that chefs cook at home for the people they love. And I think it's the same thing with a taco. If you can get people to eat really good food that they relate to, whether it's pasta, a taco, a sandwich, and they love it, it doesn't matter whether there's beef in it or mushroom in it. It's just good food at that point. And I think a lot of times you go to an Italian restaurant, for example, and you have great pasta and a salad, and you're eating vegetarian, but you don't think about it, right? It just happens to be vegetarian. So it's all in the approach and in the packaging, so to speak.
I was just going to add, I mean, we really struggled with deciding not to message a lot about the fact that we're vegetarian, vegan friendly. We just wanted to make really good food. and make you crave it and want to come back over and over and over again. And we stayed away from those words, and we actually really still stay away from those words in our physical spaces. Obviously, when we're out there in the world and we're talking about Chaia, or we're being interviewed in a magazine, or we're writing a blog post, or yeah, sure, we do it there. But in our stores, we don't. We talk about our tenets of good food, local vegetables, farmers, our community. We're really working within our wheelhouse and trying to do right by the people that work for us, the people that we're feeding, and the people who we're sourcing from. And we work with a lot of local producers. And it'll be interesting. I'll be knocking on your door to find out about scaling to new markets, because even just moving from Georgetown to Chinatown is a totally different. It's a totally different ballgame. We knew that was going to happen, and it's a challenge. And we're very grassroots and super, knocking on doors and doing whatever we can just to get asses in seats, because it's just one person at a time, right. One catering order at a time. I say, don't worry, just knock on somebody's door and try to get them.
Yeah, buy from local farmers and stay as local as you can. The more you get spread out,
that's what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's and Greg asked me why we didn't have a nopali taco, and I said, because we live in Washington, D.C. We don't have avocados on our menu either. We have a brand new item on the menu. We have a chips and dips, and we have 2 options of dips you can choose from. And of course, we have a very tiny pantry. We try to keep our ingredient list to very small. When we add a new ingredient in a recipe, we think long and hard about how are we going to use that with other things. So we now have a tahini black bean dip, which takes our side black beans, which I will say are amazing. And now we add a little tahini to it. We whip it up in a different way, and now it's a dip for our chips that we have. And we also take our toasted pepita seeds, which we have a spicy Aleppo pepper, cayenne mix on, and we whir them up and turn them into a habanero pepita dip that is amazing. So it's using the ingredients we already have over and over and over again in different ways to minimalize so we can operationalize and systemize as we try to scale and add Nepalese to our taco.
Is there a question up here? Do you have a question?
So I'm assuming it's corn tortillas?
It is.
What's the base of the corn tortilla?
It's masa harina from Bob's Red Mill. So we don't use we're experimenting with Hacienda, but because we are a fast casual, the price point is significantly more, and we love it. And Jorge has been amazing. If you know Hacienda's product, it's great, but it's a lot more expensive. It doesn't mean we might not switch, but there are things to take in. We already get some playback about $12 tacos. So
yeah.
$12 for 3 tacos.
I want to get into the pricing conversation because fast casual really came out of this idea that you could have affordable quality foods. But I think there is an expectation that fast casual is somewhere around, say, call it $8 to $12 sort of meal price point and above. You don't see it being that way.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, I don't want to interrupt. Keep going.
No. Well, for what you guys are doing, how do you find that right price point? Do you get pushback from customers thinking that it is too much? And are you trying to keep it more affordable so that it maintains that sort of accessibility?
So who wants to go first?
Well, you're talking average ticket price for the customer, because our average ticket price actually they get more than a taco, so they're going up to as much as $17 or $18. That's a lot at lunch, but they're doing it.
Sure.
We do live in a city. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know if this sort of will provide any value to this, but we put on the Beyond Meat burger probably less than 6 months ago. And we are eating a lot of that cost. We put it on for $10.95. Most retailers are selling it for $13.95, $14.95. But we're very sensitive to cost, and we felt, and I think we ended up right, that if we kept this really affordable under that, $11, once you're creeping over $11 for a sandwich in fast casual, it's looked at as an expensive sandwich. So we kept it at $10.95. We knew we would take a beating on that for a little bit. But looking at our numbers, now our ticket average has gone up by $1, and looking at Q1, and our actual foot traffic year over year is higher. We think it has something to do with really providing a new product that's delicious, that it's craveable, people are coming back for, and it's not eroding our customer loyalty by increasing the prices like that. So, but it's tough because someone has to eat that cost, you know, and but our consumer is very sensitive to that.
Yep.
If I could just talk about, for those in the room that want to start a restaurant or in a restaurant business, in fast casual, the like, there's a couple other striations of the business that's happening right now. When I went into fast casual, there was casual theme, there was elegant casual theme like a Cheesecake Factory or a Houston's or whatever. Then there was fine dining, and there was fast food. And there was you could drive a truck through the offerings between fast food and casual theme. There was so much opportunity. So that's why we all did really well. He did well, Chipotle did well, Baja did well. I got on a long list of fast casuals that did well. But as time progresses now, what's happening? Labor's going up, prices are going up, rents are going up. You can't find a decent site in LA less than $100 a foot a year, blah, blah, blah. So now what's happened is fast casual has creeped up into that $16, $17 average check, okay? Which is going to hurt you at lunch. And we have the biggest challenges at lunch in keeping traffic at Veggie because of that average check that you're talking about. So what's happening now is people are leapfrogging that with a higher version of fast casual. And if you go look at Made Nice in New York, or Suvla in San Francisco, or Tocaya Organica in LA, or these places that sounds a little bit like what Bettina's describing, much nicer build-outs, better alcohol offerings, and the like. What's now, I think there's a huge opportunity for is below fast casual now and above fast food, where you really can get something good for $10, $11. And that's where the opening's coming right now in the business, which is why I'm an investor in Starbird Chicken, is what Aaron Novician and Culinary Edge is doing in San Francisco, is developing a premium fast food. So it's not drive-through fast, but it could be, but it really delivers well, caters well, and it's $11. You're back to that promise of high-quality food faster for about $10. And I urge you to go look at that segment.
But I think the message in there also is that, one, there's fast casual fatigue. Mm-hmm. Two, there is not as much blue water. So now it's a little bit like Tulum. Everybody's figured it out, and the rates are up, and it's harder to find a spot on the beach. So I think you're right, but it's a sliver between fast food and fast casual. I think the opportunity is in casual dining, which is maybe where Suvla and these others are going, and then outside of the city, because the cities are saturated. They're too expensive, labor's too high, third party is killing us, rents are insane. So the need is outside of the city, in the suburbs and the rural parts, but you have to be really price sensitive, and you have to be intensely relatable. So you have to water it down a little bit for an audience that may not be ready for the concept.
So sort of a two-part question then, partly toward Greg's comments, which is, where does Plant-Forward fit in sort of some of those striations you were talking about? But then to Eric's part, how do you take that Plant-Forward into suburbs, ex-urban areas and beyond? If the opportunity is outside the city, does that mean the opportunity is also with Plant-Forward?
I've thought about that a lot, and we've talked about that a lot. I will tell you, there's not going to be many Tal Ronins in Crossroads. There's aren't. Right. Okay, Candle 79s in New York. There's just not going to be a lot of those where it's $38, $40 at entree, that kind of stuff, and really good food. And that's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to be chain-wide or really a moneymaker. It's a labor of love. You're going to work there 6 days a week, and you'll be great, and you'll sit on conferences, and you'll make your $300,000, $400,000 a year or more, and you'd be happy. Okay. But I really, what Eric's saying about going out in the burbs, that's exactly what Lazy Dog does. I mean, Veggie Grill is bumping up against the Lazy Dog prices, and it's got a full-service bar and everything else. The reason I know is I know the Sims family and know the concept, but that's what's coming, is concepts like that where they really speak to the masses, and the occasion fit is huge. If you just want to go eat by yourself, go sit at the bar, bring your dog. I mean, get your computer out. You got a family of 10. You got room for that too. There's still a business there.
Should we change our panel conversation to casual dining? And
it's still a tough segment
Yeah.
because of the labor. Yeah.
Right.
But the volumes, for the good guys, the volumes are really saving them because they're doing 5.5, 6 million a box.
Well, coming back to sort of the idea of scaling, I mean, what is the role of Plant-Forward in the future growth of fast casual as it grows outside the cities? Bettina and Nicole, I'm sure you guys now, as you are actively growing and you're looking at new sites, new cities, what do you look for in a market? I mean, are you thinking about those second-tier cities and beyond?
We have from the beginning, because we feel that what we're doing is something that people are craving. There was the young woman earlier today, the high school senior who had that question. And it's true, there's not a lot of options. In the minute you go out of the city limits, it gets harder and harder to find really delicious, healthy, chef-crafted, affordable cuisine that is good for your body and good for the planet. So I think there's a need there. It's challenging because I don't necessarily know those markets, so it's figuring out where it makes sense for us. I mean, I am from New York City. I grew up in Greenwich Village and then the Upper West Side. I know New York very well, and our major investors are in New York, and they love the idea of us coming there. And every time I go home to New York, I think, holy crap, this terrifies me. I did go to Tender Greens the last time I was there. Beautiful shop in New York, but you know, it's a beast. You're a little farther along in the game. We'd probably get eaten alive if we went there right now. We're not ready.
I have some advice for you on New York City. Go around New York City. I mean, there's two strategies. Either build the monster right in the center on Broadway and 23rd. It's gorgeous. It costs you $2.5 million to build it, and it's $400,000 in rent, and you're the shiz, and you're there. Or go all around New York City, okay? Build them, learn them, grow them. There's plenty of smart people with money, and they're looking for what you're talking about. And then when you're ready, blast New York City. But so many have tried and died where they go to New York and open up one or two. And
That'll be our Series A funding. We're not, we haven't
might be
accepted that.
Might be Series B.
Or Series B. We're not there yet.
Nicole, how about you for the scaling idea and what kind of markets you're looking at? How do you see the Hip City Veg concept working in other markets?
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot more potential, right, in our hometown in Philadelphia. We have several there, but, next month we'll open in a suburb of Philadelphia. So definitely a different market. But, we're seeing a very diverse customer group. And so we're tapping into that. I know women are driving, that trend for plant-forward eating. So we do look for that. I think we all look for that as well. And guys, you're great too. They're coming. But we're seeing more and more this very diverse group: men, women, baby boomers, generation Gen Z. Definitely, when I speak at colleges, I am blown away at how much these students are taking into account sustainability for what their food choices. I mean, when I was that age, I just didn't think about, where did this food come from? I wasn't really thinking like that. So that's part of the conversation a lot more now, especially in colleges. But then we branched out to DC, partly just logistics. It was a little easier to get there. I didn't have to fly anywhere. I didn't have to fly to get to our restaurants in a different market. But I learned a lot of lessons.
Sure.
Definitely did not have the home field advantage that you can't underestimate. how important that is. And really learned a lot of lessons on how to market, and thankfully we're doing well and continuing to build out there. But I think you might have touched on it. When you go into a new market, at least from what I'm seeing, just going in with one and not really having a full strategy and understanding the demographic there and who your audience is kind of wobbly. You know, next time if we go into a new market, we'll have definitely a full expansion plan in that market.
So we've touched on a little bit of the idea of marketing your brand and positioning. And Bettina, I think you had mentioned that you don't really want to say vegetarian necessarily. What about, for all of you, what's the right way to promote a plant-forward fast casual? What are the words that work for your customers? What are the words that don't? I mean, do you even want to kind of put that front and center for them?
I'll just touch on that really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, in 2012, when we opened a Google word cloud, when you put in vegan, words like radical, extreme, bad flavor was part of that. Like, just words that, you know, you wanted to stay away from. And I'm a minimalist at heart, so it was okay. In the restaurant, we just put, our menu is 100% plant-based. So that was easy. Now, you look at this word cloud, and there's healthful, Beyonce, yes. So really great associations. So you don't have to be as careful in that way. In fact, it probably will help in marketing. And I can really speak a lot more about our mission behind the restaurants in a way that probably in 2012 I was just, still no one wants to hear about factory farming when you're about to order a sandwich. Just it's not good taste. So so we keep it simple and we keep it about the flavor, but we definitely talk more about plant-based ingredients now.
Okay.
I'll just add that the #1 searched word on Yelp is vegetarian. So I may be changing my tune as well, and we may start using it in a different way. Obviously, we do use it, but we don't have it on the wall. You don't really need to when you look at the menu. You're like, okay, because we do list all our...
You can see it's vegetarian, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to camp on what she said. For years, we watched the Google word trends, and vegan was like this and flat as a pancake. And vegetarian just kept going, just kept going. You go see it, compare vegan to vegetarian or plant-based, or vegetarian is the one that gets going, lower left, upper right.
And the numbers are doubling. You know, if it was 7% vegetarians in the U.S., it's now 15 or 16. I mean, identified.
Self-described.
Self-described. They still eat chicken, right?
That's
Right. Yeah, it's a big pescatarian, right? Yeah.
So let's start talking a little bit about the future and where we see. So now we have seen this prevalence of fast casual, concepts springing up all over the country. A lot of plant-forward fast casuals that have taken root. Where do we see this movement going in the future? Eric, I want to start with you because I think you have really your finger on the pulse of sort of where the industry is going, and now you have this presence on both coasts. Between Tender Greens has presence between New York and LA. Where does this go from here for your concept and for the trend in general?
Well, I think, just look at some of the big movers out there, whether it's the IPO today of Beyond Meat, which has done really well, which I think sends a signal to the future of that, to meat analogs. WeWork and their move to plant only, and they have 450,000 members worldwide. They operate in I don't know how many countries, but a lot, about as many as Google. And they're sending a very strong message to their constituents, to their employees, to the press, that this is the future and they're going to push towards it. This conference is about that. So when you have, again, Google Food and CIA and Harvard Health and others driving this, I want to be on the right side of that. And to come back to the marketing side, I think one of the benefits is to plug into the marketing strength of a a Beyond Meat or an Impossible or a WeWork or whatever, and just plug into that like the little fish that swims along the shark. So I think the velocity is in the direction of Plant-Forward, and there's a lot of good science and data to back it up. It's better for the planet, it's better for health, and we have a crisis on both. The planet's burning. We have epidemic health, food-related health issues in this country. Your father was one. So I want to be on the right side of this, sure. and certainly both Tender Greens and others that I work with, I'll do everything I can to nudge them in this direction.
Yeah. Well, and for the rest of you, to amend the question a little bit, thinking about what consumers want, where this movement goes now that there is proof, we have proof of concept for what you guys are doing, that consumers will go to plant-forward, fast casual. What will consumers gravitate toward in the future? How can we continue to evolve this movement to match those needs?
My point of view is it's going to be occasion fit pricing, things like that. There are, how many thousands and thousands of QSR restaurants are there out there? These guys are not going to just lay around and not do anything. You can count on it. I mean, you've already seen what's gone on with, with Arby's, with Carl's Jr.
Right.
I mean, Super Bowl ad for a vegan burger or a plant-based burger, Super Bowl ad, that got my attention. And so these guys, it's in place. They've got distribution systems. They got people. All they got to do is turn the switch and change the name, and boom, plant-based tacos, plant-based whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the threat's going to come to a lot of people who are the marginal providers, is when the big guys get in the game, and they're going to get in the game. Okay, I mean, if you're Impossible, well, you're going to be talking to Steve at McDonald's. Hey, what can we do for you? How small do we make it? I mean, those conversations are happening today, and that's going to really take the top off it, because that's going to be all over the news. It's already on the news. It's going to really be on the news. And as a country, it's all about awareness and trial, and then it's good enough to retry, right? It's just a marketing 101. So the awareness is coming. Mm-hmm. The awareness on the health, you pick your awareness, whether it's sustainability, health, flavor, because I go back to plant-based eating. It had to arrive on the scene as sort of indulgent. It was never going to be a popular idea were it not just a little indulgent. Sweet potato fries, chicken sandwiches that are fried, burgers that are, that kind of stuff. So it's good that it started that indulgent. And macaroni and cheese. I mean, we have people come in with macaroni and cheese in the afternoon at 3 o'clock and have macaroni and cheese at Veggie Grill. It's just a bowl of macaroni and cheese because they love macaroni and cheese. And they're vegans. So anyway, so I think that's where the future is. So bet your money that way. I was fortunate enough to get stock at in Beyond today. I didn't get the original price. I had to pay what everybody else paid, right? But I think it's a good buy. I mean, I don't think it's overpriced for where it's going.
Yeah.
And where all that stuff's going.
Yeah. Nicole, Bettina, do you guys have input on where you feel like specifically your consumers, where you think they'll kind of want to push your concepts in the future?
Not really. I want to know how to get ahead of those big guys and get the right operator in and help us to grow before we're left behind. And so I think scaling our concept up with the right people in place. We're actually going through the process of trying to become a B Corp so that we can set some standards in place so that when we hopefully get to the next level, there's some certain things that have to sort of stay on target for us because we really do believe in what we're doing and the way we're doing it. We just don't really know how to do it ourselves. We're going to need smart people to help us.
I would get Eric's mobile phone number. Okay?
I will.
And the advice he gave you was actually, I think, the best advice is stay with the local. Because one thing that all the big guys can't do is they can't be local and they can't be cherishable and they don't have a good purpose.
We won't franchise. Our concept can't franchise.
Whether you franchise or not doesn't matter. It's what you stand for that matters. What's your purpose? What's your raison d'etre?
Right.
With the people you're selling your food to. And Eric gave you the best advice. Trust me.
I know.
Thank you for the endorsement.
Well, I do want to take a couple minutes for questions from the audience, if anybody has questions for the panelists before we wrap up. Yeah.
I'm going back to the marketing segment you were talking about earlier. Carl's Jr., we're here doing, we're getting into it. There's a lot of operators that sell meat, wanting to get into the plant sphere, but are worried about marketing and operations and saying, like, making a plant-forward vegetarian burger on the same equipment that they're making meat product on. And there's a lot of the operation marketing teams are having internal confusion about how to market it, how to deal with that. What do you guys thoughts on that?
I mean, we ran into that a lot over the years. We have one grill, and there are those mostly vegans who don't want their veggie burger or their mushroom even close to the part of the grill where the chicken or the steak might have been cooked. There's certain limitations to the operation, and you sort of have to suffer through that until the sales of the vegan option are at a point where you can build equipment around it. So they'll navigate it, and I think the few who are going to be really freaked out by it probably are freaked out by the fact that the beef is even being served in the restaurant in the first place. So unfortunately, you just lose those people. They're going to have to get over it a little bit. Sorry to say.
You can't please everybody. I mean, we had that debate more than once at Veggie Grill. And I had to go through a whole Facebook thing when a family came into the Veggie Grill in San Diego, and they ate Veggie Grill, but they brought their kids a couple pepperoni pizzas. So the mom and dad had Veggie Grill, and the kid had a pepperoni pizza. And 3 vegans across the table excoriated them in the restaurant and on Facebook. And like, how can they take this into our palace of veganism or something? It was something really, I swear to God, it was like palace. I'm like, oh my God. So
they started throwing sriracha
right,
on the wall.
No, I had to go on. I had to literally, hi, I'm the CEO, and here's the story. Okay, here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to excoriate families, because if you think about it, that mom and dad are the gateway people to how those kids are going to eat. So you need to just knock it off. And you just got to, you can't be everything, everybody. Hell with it.
Well, that's all the time we have today. I'm sure if you have other questions for our panelists, you can ask them afterward in the reception. Thank you all for joining. Round of applause for our panelists.
Oh, I just have nothing to say other than to tell you to be back for breakfast at 7:45, first session here 8:15, and another reception 5:30 outside. Thank you, Chad, though, for cutting off the music this time.
Hi, I'm here to talk about senior living and healthcare, a very important segment. Using Rich's products, operators are able to offer a variety of customizable meals, higher quality food, and provide impressive selections. Snacks are also very important to seniors. So we have a breadstick that you can make out of our Rich's pizza dough. We also have a Rich's parfait made with layers of our Rich's on top, applesauce, and our crumbled Uber, which we call the ultimate breakfast round, or it's a granola round. Also, using our 6x6 Rich's flatbread, you can make a caprese sandwich, which is very, very appealing and tasty. You can also cut this into triangles for a shareable application. Then we also want to talk about the Rich's plant-based cooking cream. This is one of our newest products. It does not contain any of the 8 allergens. It can make a vegan tomato soup. You start with a little bit of oil and sweat your vegetables till they're tender. Then you add a slurry, some vegetable broth, some crushed tomatoes, and thicken that up. And then you come back and finish it with the plant-based cooking cream for a creamy vegan tomato soup, which goes great with breadsticks and our sandwiches. Using Rich's products, you can cater to that dinner party generation and provide impressive selections.
Hi, Chef Jake here from Rich's. I'm here to talk to you today about our new ready-to-stretch pizza dough. It's unique, authentic, versatile, and flexible. It gives you the opportunity to make beautiful artisan-style pizzas by taking dough right from the refrigerator onto the screen, stretch it to the thickness you want, and then top it and bake it in whatever oven you have. We have 6-inch or 12-inch dough. You may buy pizza dough already from Rich's and you say, well, what makes this different? What makes it different is it's ready to stretch right from the fridge. It's authentic, it's unique, and it's ready to stretch to give you that artisan pizza dough that you've been looking for your operation for years. So let's stretch a pizza. We'll use our 6-inch, 6-ounce, ready to stretch pizza dough we took right from the refrigerator. This eliminates proofing, so it makes it easier for the operator to use. I'll stretch our dough without even picking it up. And you can make this as thick or thin as you want. I'll stretch this 6-inch dough to about 12 inches. And even if it's not perfectly round, it gives it that rustic artisan look. So today we're going to prepare a Margarita Pizza. I'll take our ready to stretch pizza dough, use a small amount of pizza sauce, spread it evenly, and then add our ingredients. I have sliced tomato, fresh mozzarella cheese, and we'll get this right in the oven and bake this. We're going to bake this at a high temperature, and we'll see how nice it comes out of the oven. Whether you have an impinger oven, whether you have a convection oven, or a wood stone oven, the pizza bakes up perfectly every time. So let's get to the oven. So here's our pizza straight out of the oven. We'll add our basil, and we'll cut it up for our customers to enjoy. We have to remember, with this pizza crust, the texture is that of real scratch dough without making it from scratch. And I think your guests are going to love it. So there we have it, an artisan pizza made with our Rich's ready to stretch pizza dough. Remember, no proofing, and we get that airy artisan texture with a nice crunchy crust. And I think you're going to love it. So I invite you to take our new ready to stretch pizza dough, serve it to your customers, and see what great reaction you have. Hey, thanks for joining me in my kitchen today. I hope to see you again real soon.
Hi, I'm here to talk to you about a very competitive segment, college and universities. College students are clamoring for plant-based products, and Rich's has a new broccoli and cheese pizza crust and a cauliflower crust. Lots of options you can do with these plant-based crusts. You can, of course, do a pizza, but it makes a great panini, a gluten-free panini. You can also use it as a salad bowl for salads. You can also use it as a gluten-free crust for quiche. You can also do crackers, breadsticks, and gluten-free croutons for salads. The product comes in frozen. It is fully baked. All you need to do is thaw it under refrigeration, and you can see how pliable it is. So you can actually fold it and make paninis out of it. It has a wonderful flavor. In fact, it's college student approved.
Here is a dish with spiralized sweet potatoes, clams, and a creamy Asian turmeric sauce. Using a sterilizer, sterilize the sweet potatoes into long, thick noodles. Cook the sweet potatoes in boiling water, stirring gently for about a minute or two. Drain and set aside. Heat the vegetable oil in a wok over medium-low heat Add the sweet potato noodles, stir frequently and cook just until tender. Remove from the wok and set aside. In the same wok, add a little oil, add the clams, turn the heat to medium, add the garlic, ginger, and chopped chili pepper. Add coconut milk and Knorr Professional liquid concentrate base. Add turmeric and fresh lime juice. Cook until the clams are open, remove, and then set aside. Reduce the broth until it's thick enough to coat a spoon, and season to taste. Add the noodles back into the sauce, toss gently, and then add the clams to combine well. Place the noodles and the clams on a plate, sprinkle with furikake, cilantro, and sprouts. Garnish with lime. So here is the finished dish. Enjoy.
This is a recipe for beet tartare with a quick cured egg, a modern take on an old classic. Combine the fish sauce, Worcestershire sauce, oyster sauce, honey, hot sauce, garlic cloves, and ground mustard. Gently place the yolks in the marinade. Cover and marinate in the refrigerator for 12 to 24 hours. These beets have been roasted, peeled, and diced. Combine the beets with the mayonnaise, Tabasco sauce, cornichons, capers, and scallions, and toss gently to combine. Season to taste and hold refrigerated. Add a small amount of oil to a cast iron pan. Cut the peeled shallots in half and sear, flat side down, until they begin to caramelize. Set aside. To plate, use a round cutter to form the beet tartare. Place an egg yolk in the middle. Garnish with bruleed shallots, radishes, asparagus spears, dill tops, and microgreens. Finish with dots of Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise. Here's our beet tartare with quick cured egg. Enjoy!
This is a great dish of pressure caramelized carrots with za'atar mayo, candied sunflower seeds, and roasted parsley and carrot top remoulade. Combine the peeled trimmed carrots with the butter, the baking soda, and a little bit of salt in a pressure cooker. Set the pressure cooker on high pressure for 15 minutes. In the meantime, prepare the gremolata. Fry the carrot top and parsley leaves in canola oil until translucent and crisp, about 15 seconds. Drain on paper towel and sprinkle with salt. Gently toss the fried leaves with lemon zest and set aside. To prepare the za'atar mayo, combine the mayonnaise with za'atar and freshly squeezed lemon juice. Place in a squeeze bottle and refrigerate until ready to use. To prepare the candied sunflower seeds, heat the seeds in a small nonstick pan for about 3 minutes. Stir in the brown sugar, stirring constantly over medium heat until seeds are coated and the brown sugar has melted. Place on wax paper, sprinkle with salt, and let cool. To serve, place the warm carrots on a plate, drizzle with the za'atar mayo, top with candied seeds and gremolata. Here is the finished dish. Enjoy.
This is a light, refreshing dish featuring sustainable seafood. Alaskan black cod with a grapefruit relish and an avocado cream. In a bowl, whisk together the grapefruit juice, soy sauce, mirin, miso paste, and black pepper. Marinate the cod fillets for up to 30 minutes. For the relish, char the jalapeno over an open flame. Once cooled, seed and mince. Combine with the diced grapefruit segments, scallions, sugar, red wine vinegar, and olive oil. Season to taste and refrigerate until ready to use. To make the avocado cream, combine the avocado, garlic, yogurt, Hellmann's light mayonnaise, chili, and lime juice in a blender. Blend until smooth. Heat oil in a non-stick sauté pan over medium heat. Pan-sear the cod until opaque and beginning to caramelize. To serve, Place the avocado cream on the bottom of the plate. Top with the fish and the grapefruit relish. Garnish with microgreens. Here's our finished dish. I hope you enjoy.
This dish is a fun take on a classic gratiné, Hollandaise crusted cauliflower, seasoned with cheese and mustards. Cut the cauliflower into florets, then toss the florets in a mixing bowl with oil, hot sauce, thyme, garlic, salt, and pepper. Place on a sheet pan lined with parchment paper and roast at a 425-degree oven until the florets begin to turn golden brown, about 15 to 20 minutes. Remove and set aside. Meanwhile, combine the panko, parsley, lemon zest, and cheeses, then season with the salt and pepper. Combine the Knorr liquid Hollandaise sauce with the grainy and Dijon mustards. Place the roasted cauliflower in a preheated cast iron pan, top with the Hollandaise sauce, and sprinkle with the breadcrumb mixture. Roast for another 10 minutes or until the breadcrumbs are golden brown. Here is the finished dish. Enjoy.
Head on in. Oops, sorry. Still? Head on into the Heston Kitchen for more food stations, breweries, and wineries. Sorry. We're trying to talk to all the people out on the mezzanine. No. No.